Have you ever wondered why some people seem to command respect effortlessly, while others struggle to earn even a fraction of it no matter how talented or accomplished they are? Respect is a quiet force. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't shout or demand attention. Yet it moves through every interaction, every word, every gesture you make. It shapes how the world treats you, how people respond to your presence, and how opportunities find their way to your life. And the truth is, respect is far more fragile than most of us realize. It can be built slowly, carefully, over years of consistent action, and yet it can crumble in a single careless moment, in a single attitude that undermines everything you've worked for. The people who understand this, the ones who truly master the art of respect, know that it is not given freely. It is earned through a combination of self-awareness, integrity, and the silent power of how you carry yourself. Respect is not just about being liked or admired, it's deeper than that. It's about how your presence influences others without effort. When someone respects you, they listen to you, they trust you, they value your opinions even when they don't agree. They don't just tolerate you, they acknowledge your worth in subtle ways that ripple through every interaction. And yet, most people take respect for granted. They act carelessly, speak impulsively, and adopt attitudes that quietly chip away the regard others hold for them. They fail to see that respect is like glass, beautiful, valuable, and delicate. One wrong move, one careless attitude, can leave cracks that are difficult, sometimes impossible to repair. What is it that separates those who naturally command respect from those who constantly struggle to maintain it? It is not wealth, or fame, or even talent. It is something far simpler, yet profoundly more powerful: attitude. Your attitude is the lens through which the world perceives you. It can elevate you, making your presence magnetic and your words unforgettable, or it can destroy you, leaving people disengaged, doubtful, or even resentful. Every subtle behavior, every reaction, every choice you make sends a signal. Are you signaling strength or weakness, integrity or deception, confidence or arrogance? Think about the people you truly respect. What is it that draws you to them? It is rarely the accolades on their wall. It is the way they make others feel. It is their calm under pressure, their ability to listen, their consistency, their quiet assurance that what they say and do aligns with who they are. Now think about the people whose respect you have withdrawn, whose admiration has faded. What caused it? Often it wasn't one grand betrayal. It was small, repeated attitudes that accumulated over time, arrogance disguised as confidence, inconsistency masquerading as flexibility, negativity dressed up as honesty. These attitudes erode trust and admiration without you even noticing, until one day you realize people no longer look at you the same way. The reward for understanding the dynamics of respect is immense. When you grasp the subtle forces that create or destroy it, you gain control over your life in ways that success alone cannot provide. Doors that were once closed open with ease. Conversations carry weight. People naturally gravitate toward your presence, eager to listen, to collaborate, to follow. You no longer have to demand respect. It flows toward you because your actions, your words, and your attitude naturally draw it. And the beauty of it is that this power does not come from force, from shouting, or from trying to impress. It comes from self-mastery, from awareness, from a deliberate choice to cultivate attitudes that build rather than erode your worth in the eyes of others. Respect is the silent currency of influence, the invisible force that shapes every relationship, every opportunity, every outcome in your life. And here's the critical truth. It can vanish in an instant if you adopt the wrong attitudes. Arrogance, inconsistency, negativity, dismissiveness. These are subtle traps that make people unconsciously pull back, judge, and distance themselves. But the good news is, once you recognize them, you can choose differently. You can replace destructive patterns with behaviors that reinforce your integrity, elevate your presence, and draw others toward you rather than pushing them away. Imagine living a life where people listen when you speak, where your presence commands attention without demanding it, where doors open, opportunities flow, and relationships deepen. That life is not a fantasy. It is the natural outcome of cultivating respect through intentional attitudes. Every moment you invest in self-awareness, in controlling your reactions, in nurturing the right mindset, pays exponential dividends. It is the foundation upon which influence, success, and meaningful connection are built. And the moment you understand the power of respect, the fragility of it, and the impact of your own attitudes, you unlock a force that transforms not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. Respect is never given. It is never owed. It is earned through consistent action, thoughtful behavior, and deliberate attitudes. And once you grasp this, you hold the key to a life where people admire you, listen to you, and respond to you, not because you demand it, but because you radiate it. Your attitudes are the silent architects of this power, and the choices you make today determine whether you will build a legacy of respect or watch it slip away unnoticed until it is gone. If you want, I can now write the second section, diving into arrogance that blinds with the same deep motivational style, keeping it emotionally intense and psychologically compelling. Do you want me to proceed with that? Confidence is magnetic, but arrogance is poisonous. It is one of the fastest ways to erode respect without even realizing it. Many people confuse self-assurance with superiority. They believe that showing off knowledge, accomplishments, or control will make others admire them. The reality is far from it. True respect is drawn to humility, to people who carry themselves with quiet strength rather than loud proclamation. When arrogance enters the equation, it creates distance. People feel the weight of superiority, the unspoken message that their thoughts, their opinions, their value are less important. And no matter how skilled or talented you are, this invisible barrier repels others, silently shrinking your influence. Arrogance blinds you to reality. It makes you believe that you are always right, that you must always be heard, and that correction is a sign of weakness. The moment you adopt this mindset, your growth stalls. Psychologically, humans are wired to avoid those who appear unapproachable or self-absorbed. The more you try to impress through arrogance, the more you push people away. They may nod politely, laugh at your jokes, or agree superficially, but their respect retreats into silence. Their admiration becomes conditional, fragile, and eventually disappears. The subtle truth is that arrogance rarely creates real connections. It only builds walls. When you let arrogance dictate your interactions, you sacrifice influence. Respect is not about winning arguments or dominating conversations. It is about being valued, trusted, and remembered. A humble approach, paired with quiet confidence, draws people closer. It invites curiosity, dialogue, and genuine engagement. Psychologists call this the reciprocity of respect. The way you show acknowledgement, consideration, and humility determines how others respond to you. Arrogance flips this principle on its head. It signals entitlement, superiority, and lack of regard for the perspectives of others. People sense it instinctively, and their admiration diminishes before you even notice. Arrogance also erodes self-respect. When you constantly elevate yourself at the expense of others, you disconnect from reality. You begin to rely on external validation while ignoring the internal standards that actually define your worth. True confidence comes from mastery, self-awareness, and integrity. Arrogance, on the other hand, is a mask for insecurity. People respect authenticity far more than a facade of superiority. When you embrace humility, you not only protect the respect of others, you strengthen your own sense of identity, your inner power, and your ability to navigate life without relying on constant approval. The impact of arrogance is subtle but relentless. It creeps into conversations, showing as dismissive remarks, interruptions, or a need to always prove yourself. It emerges in actions, in the unwillingness to listen, in the habit of comparing yourself to others. Each instance chips away at the foundation of respect you may have built over years. People begin to distance themselves emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically. They stop seeking your insight. They avoid your presence. And yet, if you recognize this pattern, you have the power to reverse it. You can replace arrogance with thoughtful engagement, confidence with curiosity, and self-importance with authentic humility. Humility does not mean weakness. It does not mean shrinking your voice or ignoring your achievements. It means understanding that your worth is not defined by the need to overshadow others. It is the courage to admit mistakes, to listen deeply, and to give credit where it is due. It is the awareness that respect is earned by lifting others, not by pushing them down. When you embrace this approach, your influence expands naturally. People respond to your presence with genuine attention and admiration because they feel valued, not intimidated. Arrogance blinds you to the true power of connection. It convinces you that you must dominate every interaction to prove your worth, when in reality, strength lies in restraint, empathy, and self-mastery. Every subtle shift, from arrogance to humility, transforms the way others perceive you. Your words carry weight because they are rooted in understanding. Your presence inspires trust because it radiates security. Your influence grows because you create space for others rather than claiming it for yourself. The people who respect you will not do so because of fear or obligation. They will do so because your attitude demonstrates integrity, strength, and wisdom. Ultimately, arrogance is a slow poison that can dismantle years of hard-earned respect. But recognition is power. Awareness allows you to choose differently. You can let go of the need to dominate, to impress, to control, and instead cultivate attitudes that draw respect naturally. Your confidence, paired with humility, becomes magnetic. Your interactions, guided by empathy and authenticity, become unforgettable, and your life transforms, not because you demanded recognition, but because you cultivated it silently, consistently, and intentionally. Respect, once lost to arrogance, can be rebuilt, but only if you choose the path of self-awareness, discipline, and unwavering humility. If you want, I can now create the third section focusing on the danger of inconsistency, keeping the same motivational depth, psychological insights, and emotionally engaging tone. Should I proceed with that? Consistency is the invisible backbone of respect. It is what allows people to trust you, rely on you, and value your presence in their lives. Without it, even the most confident, humble, and capable person can lose their standing in the eyes of others. Inconsistency creates doubt. It signals unpredictability. When your words, actions, and promises do not align, people are forced to question your reliability. Psychologically, humans are wired to seek stability. We naturally gravitate toward those whose behavior is steady, whose actions match their intentions, and whose presence can be counted on. Inconsistency breaks this invisible bond. It plants seeds of skepticism and slowly erodes the foundation of respect. Consider how subtle inconsistency can be. It may appear as frequent changes in opinion, promises left unfulfilled, or sudden shifts in mood and behavior. Each instance sends a message, whether intentional or not: you cannot depend on me. Over time, these small cracks accumulate into a perception that you are unreliable, unpredictable, or self-serving. People begin to guard themselves, hesitate before trusting you, and emotionally distance themselves. Respect, once granted freely, becomes conditional, and once doubt takes root, it is far more challenging to regain admiration than to lose it. Consistency is not about rigidity or perfection. It is about alignment between your values, words, and actions. It is the ability to act with integrity even when circumstances change, to uphold commitments even when it is inconvenient, and to maintain clarity in your beliefs while remaining open to growth. This alignment creates trust, and trust is the core of respect. When people know they can count on you, their admiration deepens naturally. Every action reinforces your credibility. Every decision communicates reliability. Every interaction builds a reputation that silently commands regard. Inconsistency does not only affect how others perceive you, it undermines your own self-respect. When your actions fluctuate without intention, you create internal conflict. You begin to doubt yourself, question your decisions, and rely too heavily on external validation. Psychologically, people are drawn to individuals who demonstrate mastery over themselves. When you show control, steadiness, and alignment in your life, others instinctively recognize strength. Inconsistency, however, signals instability and invites judgment, criticism, and avoidance. Your inner chaos translates outward, whether you intend it or not, and slowly diminishes the respect you receive. The impact of inconsistency is amplified in relationships, both personal and professional. People do not respect unpredictability. They do not admire those whose moods, priorities, or behaviors are constantly shifting. When you fail to follow through on promises, contradict yourself, or act impulsively, you force others into uncertainty. They cannot anticipate your reactions, trust your words, or rely on your presence. This uncertainty triggers psychological distancing, a natural human response to protect oneself from risk and disappointment. Over time, this distancing becomes habitual, and the respect that once flowed freely diminishes. Consistency, on the other hand, is transformative. It is a silent yet powerful signal of competence, reliability, and character. People notice patterns more than single events. When your actions consistently reflect your values, your word becomes your signature. You become someone whose presence reassures rather than destabilizes. Your reputation precedes you, and it carries weight because it is earned over time through deliberate, repeatable choices. Every promise kept, every behavior aligned with intention, and every act of integrity compounds, creating an aura of authority, respect, and trustworthiness. The challenge lies in conscious awareness. Consistency is not automatic. It requires attention, discipline, and self-reflection. It demands that you examine your habits, recognize areas of fluctuation, and commit to a standard of behavior that aligns with your values. Each choice becomes an opportunity to reinforce respect or undermine it. Awareness allows you to pause before reacting, to ensure that your responses reflect your principles rather than fleeting emotions. It allows you to act as the architect of your reputation rather than leaving it to chance. Imagine the power of being someone whose word is dependable, whose actions are predictable in their integrity, and whose presence creates stability in the lives of others. Imagine the doors that open, the trust that is granted, and the admiration that naturally follows when people know they can rely on you. Consistency transforms respect from a fragile, temporary acknowledgement into a durable, unshakable force. It silently communicates strength, reliability, and self-mastery. Every day you choose alignment, every promise you honor, and every behavior you stabilize adds a layer of unspoken influence that compounds over a lifetime. Respect is fragile when exposed to inconsistency, but it is powerful when anchored in steady action. It is earned in small, deliberate steps, and it is reinforced through repeated demonstration of reliability, integrity, and alignment with values. When you embrace consistency as a guiding principle, you protect the respect you have earned, deepen the trust of those around you, and cultivate an influence that is lasting, resilient, and transformative. In the world of human interaction, consistency is not just a habit. It is a silent declaration of who you are, a statement of your reliability, and a cornerstone of enduring respect. If you want, I can now write the fourth section, focusing on the toxicity of negativity, maintaining the same emotionally compelling, psychologically driven motivational style. Should I continue with that? Negativity is one of the quietest, most destructive forces that erodes respect. Unlike arrogance, which pushes people away through overt superiority, negativity seeps into every interaction, poisoning the perception others have of you without drawing immediate attention. Constant complaining, criticizing, or seeing the worst in every situation sends a subtle but powerful signal. You are draining, pessimistic, and unapproachable. Psychologically, humans are wired to avoid emotional toxins. We are drawn to energy that uplifts, inspires, and reassures. Negativity, no matter how disguised as honesty or realism, creates emotional friction that others instinctively resist. Over time, this resistance translates into a loss of admiration and a quiet withdrawal of respect. Negativity undermines the influence you can have in every area of life. People do not respect someone who constantly points out flaws, magnifies problems, or dwells on obstacles. Your opinions, insights, and contributions are overshadowed by the emotional weight you bring. The subtle psychology at play is simple. When someone consistently creates a negative environment, others unconsciously categorize them as a threat to emotional stability. Respect diminishes because people prioritize their own mental and emotional well-being over maintaining admiration for someone who drains it. The more negativity is displayed, the more respect retreats, often without confrontation, until it is gone entirely. The danger lies in its subtlety. Negativity rarely appears as outright hostility. It hides in offhand comments, sarcastic remarks, or a habitual focus on what is wrong rather than what is possible. Every time you allow negativity to dominate your speech or your mindset, you chip away at trust and admiration. People begin to question not just your attitude, but your judgment, your reliability, and your ability to handle challenges. When the dominant energy you project is critical or pessimistic, you are no longer seen as someone who inspires, guides, or uplifts. Instead, you become someone to tolerate rather than admire, someone whose presence is emotionally taxing rather than energizing. Negativity also erodes self-respect. The mind absorbs the patterns it repeats, and those who focus on the negative cultivate doubt, fear, and cynicism within themselves. This inner state manifests outwardly, reinforcing the perception others have of you. When your energy is clouded by criticism, blame, or pessimism, it diminishes your capacity to lead, influence, and command respect. Psychological studies consistently show that people mirror the emotional energy they encounter. By projecting negativity, you not only repel admiration, but also lower the emotional climate around you, reducing your capacity to connect meaningfully and inspire. Replacing negativity requires deliberate awareness and discipline. It demands a shift from problem-focused thinking to solution-oriented action. It requires choosing words that uplift rather than tear down, cultivating gratitude, and demonstrating resilience in the face of setbacks. When you consciously replace critical, pessimistic habits with curiosity, optimism, and constructive feedback, the transformation is immediate and powerful. People notice. They gravitate toward your energy. They respect your ability to remain composed, solution-focused, and uplifting, even in challenging circumstances. Negativity often masquerades as intelligence, realism, or honesty, making it tempting to justify. Yet respect is rarely granted to those who drain energy under the guise of insight. The subtle psychological truth is that respect is an emotional response, not a rational judgment. People respect those whose presence reassures, inspires, and elevates them. Negativity undermines this response, and no amount of skill, knowledge, or accomplishment can fully compensate for the emotional burden it creates. Even the brightest intellect or strongest talent loses its power when it is constantly paired with a negative, critical energy that alienates those around it. The antidote to negativity is both simple and profound. It is the conscious cultivation of an attitude that uplifts, inspires, and reassures. It is the discipline to acknowledge challenges without dwelling on them, to offer solutions rather than complaints, and to project energy that draws people in rather than pushing them away. This approach does not ignore reality. It strengthens your capacity to face it. It transforms interactions into opportunities to inspire trust and admiration, reinforcing respect in ways that negativity can never achieve. Respect is not built in moments of complaint or criticism. It is reinforced in every interaction where your energy elevates rather than diminishes. It is the sum of countless subtle choices: the way you respond under pressure, the way you speak about others, the emotional tone you bring into a room. Each time you choose optimism, resilience, and constructive engagement over negativity, you are building a reputation that commands admiration silently but powerfully. The people who respect you will not do so because you demanded it. They will do so because your attitude creates an environment where trust, admiration, and inspiration naturally flourish. Negativity is a silent thief of respect, but awareness is its antidote. When you recognize the destructive patterns, understand their psychological impact, and choose a mindset rooted in positivity, resilience, and constructive engagement, you regain the power to command respect effortlessly. Every moment spent focusing on solutions, elevating others, and maintaining composure adds to an invisible but undeniable legacy of influence. Your energy becomes magnetic. Your presence inspires, your words carry weight, and respect, once threatened by negativity, becomes a natural reflection of the strength, composure, and wisdom you project into every interaction. If you want, I can now create the fifth section, focusing on the trap of arrogant ignorance, keeping the same high-impact motivational and psychologically driven style. Should I continue with that? Pretending to know everything is one of the most subtle ways people lose respect without realizing it. Arrogant ignorance is a silent destroyer of influence and admiration. It disguises itself as confidence, boldness, or authority, convincing both the person displaying it and those around them that knowledge is being demonstrated. In reality, it signals a lack of self-awareness and humility. People instinctively sense when someone overestimates their own understanding. The psychological effect is immediate. Doubt creeps in, admiration fades, and respect begins to erode, often before a word of confrontation is spoken. The danger lies in the illusion of superiority. Many believe that asserting opinions without evidence or shutting down alternative perspectives will strengthen their credibility. The truth is the opposite. When people detect arrogance paired with ignorance, it triggers an unconscious warning: this person is unreliable, inflexible, and unlikely to listen or grow. Psychologically, humans are drawn to curiosity and openness because they signal adaptability and intelligence. Arrogant ignorance repels these instincts. It isolates you. It closes doors to collaboration, learning, and meaningful connection. People may nod politely, but internally, their trust and admiration are quietly withdrawn. Respect is deeply rooted in perception. It is not about being the smartest in the room. It is about how your behavior communicates integrity, openness, and competence. Arrogant ignorance undermines all of these signals. When you refuse to acknowledge gaps in knowledge, dismiss perspectives, or act as if you already know everything. You are telling others that their insight is unnecessary, their experience irrelevant, and their contribution unworthy of consideration. Even if unintentional, this creates distance. People stop seeking your guidance. They stop valuing your opinion. They stop including you in decisions that matter. Your presence loses weight because your attitude signals stagnation rather than growth. The subtle psychological impact of arrogant ignorance is profound. People respect those who admit when they do not know, who approach challenges with curiosity, and who actively seek understanding. These behaviors signal confidence without defensiveness, strength without arrogance, and intelligence without ego. In contrast, arrogance disguised as certainty communicates insecurity beneath a thin veneer of authority. It convinces the world that you are closed off, that your ego is fragile, and that your growth is stunted. People may interact with you, but their admiration is replaced with caution, skepticism, and emotional distancing. True influence comes from authenticity and humility. Knowledge alone cannot earn respect if it is delivered with a tone of superiority or closed-mindedness. Humility in learning signals awareness, intelligence, and emotional strength. When you embrace the reality that there is always more to understand, you position yourself as both approachable and formidable. People are drawn to those who listen, who ask questions, and who are willing to adapt based on new insights. This is not weakness. It is mastery. It communicates that your presence is valuable not because you dominate the conversation, but because your engagement is meaningful, informed, and authentic. Arrogant ignorance also erodes self-respect. Pretending to know everything requires constant vigilance, mental energy, and ego management. It isolates you from honest feedback, learning opportunities, and growth experiences. Over time, it creates a disconnect between your perceived identity and your actual capability. True confidence arises from mastery, self-reflection, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty. It thrives on the balance between knowing and learning, between teaching and listening, between speaking and absorbing. Arrogant ignorance destroys that balance, replacing potential influence with superficial attention and fragile admiration. Every interaction becomes a test. The more you assert authority without substance, the more people internally recalibrate their perception of you. The more you dismiss input or avoid acknowledging gaps in your understanding, the more respect diminishes. Influence is not built on deception or performance. It is cultivated through authenticity, humility, and intentional engagement. By replacing arrogant ignorance with curiosity, active listening, and a willingness to learn, you invite admiration rather than repel it. People begin to trust your judgment, value your insight, and respect the consistency of your character. Respect is a reflection of how your attitudes align with your actions and how your presence affects others emotionally and psychologically. Arrogant ignorance distorts that reflection, replacing genuine admiration with hesitation, doubt, and emotional distance. But recognition of this pattern is a turning point. Awareness allows you to shift. It allows you to replace ego-driven posturing with deliberate humility. It allows you to transform interactions into opportunities to inspire, elevate, and connect. Every choice to admit what you do not know, every moment of curiosity, and every act of listening strengthens your reputation and draws respect naturally. The most respected people are not those who pretend to have all the answers. They are those who show the courage to learn, the wisdom to listen, and the authenticity to acknowledge their limitations while striving for mastery. Arrogant ignorance is a silent enemy of this respect, but awareness and deliberate action are the antidote. By embracing humility, curiosity, and genuine engagement, you protect the respect you have, amplify your influence, and create a presence that commands admiration without force, without pretense, and without compromise. If you want, I can now write the 6th section, focusing on disrespecting others, continuing the high-impact, psychologically driven, deeply motivational style. Should I proceed with that? Disrespect is one of the fastest ways to destroy the admiration and trust you have worked so hard to build. It doesn't have to be loud or obvious. Even subtle gestures, a dismissive tone, a sarcastic comment, or ignoring someone's contribution communicate a message more powerful than words, that others' feelings, opinions, and value are unimportant. Human psychology is wired to respond strongly to this kind of signal. People instinctively withdraw, distance themselves, and mentally reevaluate their regard for anyone who treats them as beneath consideration. Respect, once broken through acts of disrespect, is almost impossible to fully recover. When you consistently show disregard for others, you create an environment where people feel unsafe emotionally and intellectually. Respect thrives in spaces where acknowledgement, validation, and empathy exist. When you remove those elements, even unintentionally, admiration erodes. Your credibility is questioned, your insights are discounted, and your influence diminishes. The subtle but undeniable truth is that respect is not granted to those who belittle or dismiss. It flows to those who honor the presence, perspectives, and contributions of others. Disrespect comes in many forms. It might appear as criticism without guidance, interrupting or speaking over someone, or minimizing the efforts and achievements of others. Each act signals a lack of awareness and self-control. Psychologically, humans perceive this behavior as a threat to their dignity. Even if your intentions are not malicious, the impact is the same. People feel undervalued and their trust in you diminishes. Over time, this creates a pattern. Others begin to anticipate disrespect, emotionally brace themselves around you, and slowly withdraw from your sphere of influence. What was once admiration becomes guarded tolerance. Respect is built on a foundation of acknowledgement. Every interaction, every conversation, every response is an opportunity to reinforce or undermine it. Disrespect communicates imbalance. It signals that you place your own needs, opinions, or ego above the humanity of those around you. People instinctively react by recalibrating their perception of your character. The more you prioritize your ego over genuine acknowledgement, the more your influence fades and the more your presence becomes a source of tension rather than inspiration. The psychological reality is simple. Admiration cannot coexist with persistent devaluation. The ripple effect of disrespect is profound. One dismissive act can overshadow years of effort, achievements, and competence. People do not compartmentalize respect easily. Emotional impressions accumulate faster than facts. A single, repeated pattern of dismissiveness or condescension creates a lasting emotional memory, one that colors all future interactions. Even when you deliver value, people may question your integrity, doubt your intentions, or hesitate to follow your lead. The loss of respect is rarely dramatic or immediate. It is slow, quiet, and relentless, until one day you realize that your influence has waned, and your presence no longer commands the attention it once did. The antidote lies in deliberate awareness and empathy. True respect is reciprocal. The way you treat others directly influences how they perceive and respond to you. By acknowledging others, validating their contributions, and exercising consideration in every interaction, you reinforce admiration without effort. The psychological principle at work is straightforward. Humans mirror the emotional energy they receive. When you radiate acknowledgement, people respond with trust, engagement, and loyalty. When you project disregard, they respond with skepticism, disengagement, and distance. Respect grows when you show restraint, thoughtfulness, and intentionality. It thrives in an environment where people feel seen, heard, and valued. Simple adjustments, listening actively, giving credit, avoiding sarcasm or belittlement, compound over time into a reputation of integrity and reliability. People are drawn to those who consistently honor their presence, opinions, and emotions. Your influence strengthens, your voice carries weight, and your presence inspires rather than intimidates or alienates. Ultimately, disrespect is a choice. And like all choices, it comes with consequences. Every dismissive gesture, every moment of condescension, and every failure to acknowledge others chips away at the respect you hope to command. Awareness allows you to break this pattern, to replace it with behaviors that elevate and honor. When your interactions consistently demonstrate acknowledgement, empathy, and consideration, you build a reputation that commands respect effortlessly. People gravitate toward you not because you demand it, but because your attitude silently affirms their value, strengthens trust, and elevates your influence. The power of respect is amplified exponentially when it is earned through conscious, deliberate acknowledgement rather than taken for granted. If you want, I can now write the 7th and final section, focusing on owning your attitude and reclaiming respect, to close the script with maximum emotional impact and motivation. Should I proceed with that? Every attitude you carry has the power to build or destroy the respect you command. Your thoughts, your reactions, and the energy you project are not trivial. They ripple outward, shaping how others perceive you and how the world responds to your presence. The moment you take full ownership of your attitude, you reclaim control over respect. You stop leaving it to chance, to circumstance, or to the unpredictable behavior of others. You understand that influence is not something to be demanded. It is something cultivated through deliberate choice, self-awareness, and integrity. This is the ultimate power, the ability to shape not only how others see you, but how you see yourself. Owning your attitude begins with radical honesty. You must confront the patterns, behaviors, and responses that quietly undermine your presence. Every act of arrogance, every lapse in consistency, every moment of negativity, every instance of dismissiveness, every pretense of knowing more than you do, all of these erode respect incrementally yet persistently. Awareness of these tendencies is the first step toward transformation. When you acknowledge them without judgment, without excuses, you create the space to replace them with attitudes that elevate, inspire, and command admiration. This is not a superficial change, it is a deep psychological shift that resonates through every interaction and every relationship. Self-mastery is the natural consequence of owning your attitude. When you stop reacting impulsively, stop allowing ego or frustration to dictate your behavior, and start choosing responses aligned with integrity and empathy, people notice. Humans are finely attuned to authenticity. They sense the difference between a person who is self-controlled and thoughtful and someone who is reactive or self-centered. Every deliberate action, every measured word, every conscious decision to maintain composure and project positivity reinforces your credibility and deepens respect. This is the subtle but undeniable law of human interaction. Your internal discipline directly shapes the external regard you receive. Accountability is central to this process. Owning your attitude means recognizing that respect is not owed to you. It is earned daily through intentional choices. It means understanding that lapses in behavior, however small, have consequences, and that each moment presents an opportunity to reinforce your integrity. This awareness is liberating because it places the power squarely in your hands. You do not need to manipulate, impress, or control others to gain admiration. Instead, you cultivate attitudes that naturally draw respect, humility in learning, consistency in action, positivity in energy, acknowledgement in relationships, and authenticity in presence. Every choice you make becomes a signal. Are you showing arrogance or confidence, negativity or resilience, disregard or acknowledgement? Each signal communicates more than words ever could. People respond not to what you claim, but to what your behavior conveys. When your attitude consistently reflects integrity, empathy, and awareness, respect flows toward you effortlessly. Your influence grows silently but powerfully, shaping opportunities, relationships, and outcomes without force or coercion. Conversely, every lapse, every moment of ego, criticism, inconsistency, or dismissiveness quietly chips away at that influence, often without your immediate notice. The process of reclaiming respect is both practical and transformative. Begin by examining the subtle attitudes that may have eroded trust over time. Replace arrogance with humility. Replace negativity with constructive engagement. Replace inconsistency with deliberate alignment. Replace ignorance disguised as certainty with curiosity and a willingness to learn. Replace disrespect with acknowledgement and empathy. Each shift is a small but potent act that recalibrates the way others perceive you. These changes are cumulative, compounding over days, weeks, and months into a reputation that commands admiration and inspires trust. The psychological power of this approach is profound. Respect is not a transaction, it is a reflection of the energy you project, the reliability you demonstrate, and the integrity you uphold. By owning your attitude, you stop being a passive recipient of others' opinions and start actively cultivating the respect you deserve. You transform interactions into opportunities to reinforce credibility, influence, and admiration. You create an aura of presence that people instinctively recognize, respond to, and value. This is the silent force that opens doors, deepens connections, and amplifies your impact in ways that external achievements alone cannot. Ultimately, the choice is yours. Respect is fragile, but it is also entirely within your control. Every moment offers a decision to project ego or humility, negativity or optimism, dismissiveness or acknowledgement. Each decision shapes the invisible legacy you leave in the minds and hearts of those around you. When you take full ownership of your attitude, you no longer leave respect to chance. You cultivate it, reinforce it, and protect it intentionally. The power to command admiration, trust, and influence lies in the mastery of your internal world. When your inner world aligns with the principles of humility, integrity, consistency, positivity, and empathy, respect is no longer something you seek. It becomes a natural, effortless reflection of who you are. Your attitude is your greatest asset. Guard it, shape it, own it. When you do more than earn respect. You create a presence that inspires, elevates, and leaves a lasting impact on every life you touch. The respect you reclaim through conscious, deliberate action is not fleeting. It is a foundation, a legacy, and a silent force that amplifies everything you do. Every interaction, every decision, every thought becomes a building block for a life where admiration is not begged for, but effortlessly commanded. Your attitude is the key, and mastery of it unlocks the respect and influence you deserve. The energy you bring into every interaction determines not just how others perceive you, but how they feel in your presence. Respect is not simply earned through words or achievements, it is felt through the invisible currents of attitude, focus, and integrity. Every glance, every tone of voice, every subtle choice of language carries weight. People are constantly measuring the alignment between what you say, what you do, and who you are at your core. When that alignment is strong, respect flows naturally. When it falters, admiration diminishes, often without warning. This is why mastering the subtleties of your attitude is not optional. It is essential. Attention to your internal state is critical because your emotions ripple outward whether you intend them to or not. Anger left unchecked communicates volatility. Impatience signals intolerance. Anxiety or self-doubt subtly transmits uncertainty. Humans are remarkably perceptive of these cues, even in fleeting moments. When your internal emotional landscape is dominated by negativity, fear, or ego, it manifests externally in ways that quietly erode trust. Respect is deeply tied to perception, but perception is grounded in emotion. The more you cultivate control over your internal responses, the more consistently you project the strength, calm, and composure that others instinctively respect. Self-discipline is the silent ally of respect. It is the force that allows you to act intentionally rather than react impulsively, to speak with purpose rather than out of frustration, and to navigate challenges without losing control. People do not respect chaos, they admire mastery. The most powerful presence is one that demonstrates restraint, focus, and strategic thought. Every decision to pause, consider, and respond deliberately reinforces the perception of competence and authority. Respect is amplified when it is paired with a sense of emotional intelligence, because it signals to others that you are not only capable, but also mindful of the impact your behavior has on the world around you. Humility and acknowledgement are equally powerful. The act of recognizing the value in others does not diminish your own presence, it enhances it. Respect is reciprocal. When you honor the perspectives, contributions, and experiences of those around you, you create an environment where admiration is freely given. Conversely, failing to acknowledge others, dismissing their input, or assuming superiority diminishes your standing. Human psychology rewards empathy and responsiveness. It punishes arrogance, self-centeredness, and disregard. Every interaction becomes a microcosm of your character, a reflection of whether you build others up or isolate yourself through subtle disrespect. Consistency, once again, is the cornerstone of long-term respect. People remember patterns far more than isolated actions. One moment of humility can be overshadowed by repeated arrogance. One act of recognition can be diluted by habitual dismissiveness. Respect is cumulative. It is reinforced through repeated demonstration of integrity, empathy, and emotional intelligence.